Hello and welcome to D Train and the Modern Day Warriors football talk. Today we're going to be tackling the NFC North, a division I happen to know M.D.W is very passionate about because his beloved Packers are in it. So,
Yeah.
without further ado, let's get Modern Day Warriors juices flowing. We'll start off right away with the Chicago Bears, of course.
Oh God, this team can burn in hell. We
I know
dominate them
they're
every year.
I know they're your favorite team. You're a diehard Packers fan. You gotta love the Bears, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. All right. Well, look at the draft picks. The draft picks are aplenty.
Jesus.
Partially because they had the number one pick and they traded it away for a basket full of goodies from the Carolina Panthers. But the first, the 2 seconds, the third, the 2 fourths, 2 fifths, 2 sevenths. The Bears are going to be busy on draft weekend.
Oh yeah. Definitely. They have a lot of draft capital, plenty of cap, and that's what makes the two combined things right there so dangerous for a team that's kind of in the midst of rebuilding and kind of what kind of quarterback they have. That's why I hate it so much. Like shit, they actually have a direction now, and now the only problem they may now have is what kind of coach do they have in Matt Eberflus. So I don't know what kind of head coach he really is yet. So anyway,
Well,
I
I'll let you go through the additions and departures first.
all right, I have plentiful to say here. So as you can see with their additions column here, they have made very big efforts in their cap to acquire a lot of pieces. If you zoom in on there, so I love the DJ Moore trade because they traded out with the first pick with the Panthers, and now the Panthers hold the number one pick. So the DJ Moore is, I have to admit, it is a very, very good trade for the Bears. He is a solid and very good number one receiver. Could easily be 1,000 yard a in receiving yards anyway. Uh, I love, and I mean you may not, but I love the addition of linebacker T.J. Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. I think those are steal gets. Um, I mean, but
They're not
I like
steals; they
linebackers.
paid for them.
What they, I mean, yeah, I think they were very highly talented linebackers that they were gonna obviously go to whomever paid the most, but uh, damn it, the Bears got him, son of a bitch. And then Andrew Billingsley can be a starting defensive tackle. I unfortunately think he's going to be a solid piece for their defensive line. And then Dante Foreman is simply just there to replace David Montgomery's production. So I mean, he's a very stout and talented back, but yeah, he's simply there just to replace Montgomery. Uh, and then I hate to say it, they freaking stole Robert Tunyon right from under our noses. Just took him right from underneath the Packers. Damn them to all the hell. Yes, they took Robert Tunyon. He's a solid tight end. To go one hand with Cole Kmet from Notre Dame. So damn them to hell.
So wait a
Dem-
minute, wait a minute. They offered a contract to Robert Tunyon, correct?
yes, they did.
The Packers
Those
did not offer a contract to Robert Tunyon, correct?
yes, as
So
much as
they
I hate
didn't
it.
steal him. The Packers
I
didn't want him back.
I like to think they stole him, but anyway,
That's that's just making up stuff in your own head, then, because there's no
Demarcus
stealing if you didn't want him.
Demarcus Walker. I mean I think they're gonna give him a lot of the reps with Andrew Billings, but I mean if he doesn't win it, that starting role at that position, I think he's definitely going to be a rotationary piece. And then you got a starting guard in Nate Davis, which is going to significantly help their offensive line. And then I saw a piece in Travis Homer. I think he's gonna be a. I think they're gonna have him being a backup, be right behind Deontay Foreman. And PJ Walker simply there just to be a backup. Uh, and then in your departures, yeah, I mean, David Montgomery is somewhat of an interesting loss. Probably their biggest loss that I can see. From what I can see from their departures, I think he's their biggest loss. So, and I can see you shaking your head there, and you disagree, obviously.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay. So, I mean, other than that, I think with their cap situation, I think they did an excellent job with adding a lot of talent. They filled up a lot of their holes, but obviously they can use their plentiful of draft picks to go fill some more holes. So they have the ability to make this team go in the right direction. It's just a matter of what holes they're going to fill out the draft and what key more additions they're going to add in the draft in free agency. So unfortunately, I see this team going in the right direction for once.
Except for one problem.
What's that?
They're still counting on Josh Fields to be their quarterback. Justin Fields, I know. I call him Josh all the time. It's kind of an inside joke. Am I wrong? Justin Fields is still going to be the quarterback?
I do believe that's what they're counting on. Yes.
Okay. Who's the last Ohio State quarterback to start and win a Super Bowl?
Oh, I don't think it. You're probably gonna have to go before my day. I'm 22.
No.
So
No, Ethan. You're still waiting for that day to happen because it has never happened. No Ohio State quarterback has ever started and won a Super Bowl. Only two Ohio State quarterbacks have Super Bowl rings. They were both backups and they both played a long time ago. You don't put an Ohio State quarterback in the NFL and expect to win. It's that simple. It's the
so
reason I don't like CJ Stroud in the draft. Same reason. It doesn't work. Justin Fields is not going to win. He might get you to a playoff, maybe, if you're lucky, but you're never going to win the championship with him. So for me, the Bears are treading water. The right move for them would have been to get rid of Fields this offseason and get one of these four quarterbacks. Really, it's only three because I say Stroud's not an option either. But go get a new quarterback and start over. That's not what they're doing. Okay, so what did they do? They improved their linebacking core. They lost two linebackers. They got two linebackers that are significantly better. Not going to deny that. Edwards and Edmonds, huge, huge upgrade from what they lost. I like that move. It kind of stops there for me. Although I'm a huge Dante Foreman fan, I don't think he's better than David Montgomery. It's a trade off. I get that. Robert Tonyan, I think, was a flash in the pants. I don't think he was that good to begin with. I live up here in Green Bay with you, of course. I've seen plenty of Packer games. I never thought Tonyan was that great. He benefited from playing with a great quarterback. And yeah, you're hearing me say it. Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. I've never said otherwise. And that made Tonyan a decent player. But in real life, he's very average at best. The two defensive tackle pickups, I think they're good rotation pieces. I'm not going to deny that. But I'm going to look at this thing right here. And you said something about Nate Davis leaving. And okay, he was an average guard at best. Or coming in, he's an average guard at best. Leaving, Riley Reef was their starting right tackle. And a solid starting right tackle on an offensive line that was not that good. So where's your offensive line help? Where did the Chicago Bears go out and actually get production from that offensive line? Nate Davis, really? That's your big move? You have no decent starting tackles now because Reef is gone. Your guards, I guess, are better than they were because of the addition of Davis, and they don't have a significant center. This team needs offensive line, and they did nothing to address that. DJ Moore, great pickup in the trade. Is he going to stick around? Is he going to take a contract extension? Because otherwise, it's a 1-year deal. This is something
I
that
mean,
they should have had planned before they made the trade. Correct?
I mean, you do make some interesting cases in that regard.
And you move from number 1 to number 9. So now you're out of the quarterback market. Number 9, you are in a good position to get maybe that offensive tackle, or maybe you get one of the edge rushers that slide to you. Because to me, those are the two big needs for the Chicago Bears. But I'm not crazy about the secondary either. So there's still some work to be done there. And maybe one of the top corners is still available at 9, especially the Illinois boy, Witherspoon. I think it's somebody they've got to look at, if nothing else, because of his local ties. But I'm not crazy about the Bears. They were the worst team in the league for a reason. Part of that for me is Fields, but the other part of it is that bad offensive line and bad defensive line play. Yes, they went out and got 2 defensive tackles, but that's not going to increase your sack numbers. You need edge rushers. You need pass rushers. They don't have them. They went out and got 2 good linebackers. Okay, so your second level is better, but is it going to matter if the offensive line of the other team is climbing up to your second level every time? No, it's not. Hopefully Billings and Walker help there, but I'm not convinced it's a good move or a big move.
Interesting. I I'm not saying that this team is going to be playoff team or playoff ready this year. I'm just saying there it looks like there's finally a direction this team is going in that looks somewhat positive. I didn't say that all these additions that they were making were gonna make them playoff ready. By no chance. I think they might be the third best team in the division this year.
So
But
what is the goal? If you're not trying to make the playoffs, what is the goal? The
I
goal is
think right
just to
now
be
you
the
need
third best team in the division? I don't think that's the goal. The goal is to
well, I
make
don't
the playoffs. You play to win the game, as Denny Green says.
I mean, I mean, you're definitely not wrong. I just don't know if the talent that they have right now. I think it requires more build up than what they have right now. It's a
But
solid move for what
isn't that
they've
what they're
done.
supposed to be doing with $90 million in cap space and a plethora of picks?
I mean,
That was what they were supposed to do, right?
yes, that was what they were supposed to do with yeah.
And the goal was supposed to be a playoff team, right? You're not going to fill at that number 9 pick in the first round. You're not going to fill edge rusher, 2 offensive tackles, and a secondary. You're not going to get all of that in one pick.
No, you're not going to.
Why did they address these big need positions?
I don't think that. Well, I mean, and it goes back to what I said earlier. They didn't fill every need. They filled some. I mean, what you saw. I mean, they had the most additions in the NFC North, at least in the division, anyway.
Okay, what
Um,
needs do they fill? Hang on, you just said they went out and filled some of their needs. What
well,
needs
well, I
did they
mean,
fill?
they filled out their top receiver need with DJ Moore, and
What
then
happened? Well, how is that such an upgrade from what they had?
what did
I
they
mean,
have?
Chase Claypool's a much more physical spectrum at wide receiver. Has he
I mean,
produced? No. But from a tool standpoint, he's better than DJ Moore. From a tool standpoint, not a production standpoint. Obviously, you've got to get him the ball, which is still part of the problem here. But
I mean,
the Daryl Morey, he's produced for him. I don't see Moore as a huge upgrade over those 2 guys.
I mean, I understand that you have no respect for Justin Fields whatsoever, and I get it. He's an Ohio State guy. You don't trust Ohio State guys. I get it.
No, you're reading that completely wrong. First of all, I don't have any respect for Justin Fields because he's a bad quarterback. It has nothing to do with Ohio State. He's proven time and time again out there on the field he cannot hit an open receiver. And with the Bears, he doesn't have time to look for an open receiver because he still doesn't have an offensive line that can protect him. Their big needs were get after the quarterback, protect their own quarterback, and shut down in the secondary. Nowhere on this list did they address any of their big needs. They went out and got fluff pieces so that people like you will sit out here and say they're trying really hard and they're getting really good players. Yeah, they're getting good players that don't fill the positions of need. So they're not going to improve. They're going to be bad again.
Well, I mean, I don't like I never said this team was gonna be good. I just said it looked like they're
Oh,
making
you
it.
said that. Oh, no. I'll backtrack and play it if we have to. Earlier, you said this team is on the upswing, which I hate, damn it. That was your exact quote. So you
Yeah,
did
I
say
did
this
say
team
that.
was improved. They're not
I
improved.
I mean I think they're a lot like the Lions. I think that there's some improvement there, but I mean, are they gonna be good? I mean, I doubt it. But I mean, there is positive direction for once. I did say that.
I don't see
Like
positive
I
direction.
think
I see stalemate.
I
And you
think in
spent
no
most of your cap room.
I think in no way the Bears will win the NFC North with this team. No, but could they in the
Nobody
future
said
if
you
they
said they were going to win the NFC North. You said they were improved and getting better. I don't see it. You've yet to
I,
make a case as to how they're getting better here.
I
Is
think that
DJ
they're
Moore is DJ Moore going to have 1,000 yards if Justin Fields can't get the ball off because he's getting sacked every play? Is their running game even as respectable as it has been for the last 2 years? I think it took a downturn, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't see it. And the defense can't stop anybody. They can't put pressure on the quarterback and they can't stop the pass.
I think that's why I mean and I think it's what I think I value TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds a lot more than you do, but I think that
Okay,
they added
so
those.
TJ Edwards, hang on. TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, are they going to cover other teams' number one receiver? Are they going to stop the pass that way?
I think
Are they
because
playing
they're
corner
both
now
field
instead of
generals. I think
linebacker?
that's what they're. No, no. I'm not saying they're corners.
So then they didn't address the team's need. The linebackers for the Chicago Bears were not that bad last year. Lord knows they were on the field enough. They made tons of tackles. You can do that with any linebackers. You're saying that somehow TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds are going to stop the pass. How? Unless they're going to go cover, they're not helping there.
I think what they're and this is just what I mean. I'm not saying they will do this, but I think what they're gonna have TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds do it mostly is try. I try to regulate the middle of the field, like play a little soft zone, and then cover the middle of the field, so that those underneath routes are becoming harder for the quarterback to hit.
Yeah, but now you just opened up the run game because you've got Edwards and Edmonds worried about the passing game.
And I think that's where you need to upgrade your defensive line, which I mean they can in the draft, but I mean they definitely need to upgrade that a little bit more than what they have. Yeah.
So they can upgrade the defensive line, the secondary, and the offensive tackle all in the first round of this draft with one pick. No,
Uh,
they can't.
no,
Their chance to upgrade what they needed was free agency. They failed. For me, they get that. However, because we're running out of time and I'm going to want to move on, I'm going to read what the Sporting News says about the Chicago Bears because they unfortunately feel more like you. They've gotten an A plus grade and they've had the number one offseason in free agency, according to the Sporting News. GM Ryan Poles was ready to do business. He would have hit A status just by the blockbuster deal and trading down from number one, and they got more for Justin Fields and key draft picks in return. But then he made smart upgrades in the defense front seven as well, while finding a few more valuable pieces for Fields and the running game. Moving on from Montgomery was wise, especially with Foreman and Homer coming in to help Khalil Herbert. So in there, he doesn't address, or whoever wrote this, doesn't address the offensive line really at all, which I think we all agree the Chicago Bears offensive line was horrible last year. Um,
it was.
or the secondary, which also was bad last year. But yet he did a great job by addressing needs they didn't have. Okay, I don't get it. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. People are happy with what the Bears did. I don't see it. I guess we'll wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah, so at this point, that's what it's gonna have to be.
Well, we kind of went over the needs. I don't think we need to go position by position. I personally think they still need everything. And I think top of that list should be quarterback. But obviously, they're going to play with Justin Fields and see what they get there. All right. Continue to lose Chicago Bears. Rock on. But we got to do a modern day warrior bullseye pick for that number 9 pick. Who do you got?
All right, for the number 9 pick, I have the Chicago Bears taking Myles Murphy, an edge rusher out of Clemson. Did you hear that?
Oh, shit.
Oh,
Forgot to unmute me. I forgot to unmute myself. Sorry. No, I'm ranting and
um,
raving over here. Myles Murphy in the top 10 is ridiculous. Now you're giving them bad players in the top 10. So they traded down from number 9 or from number 1 to get number 9. They could have got Will Anderson Jr. at number 1 and really addressed that edge rush position that they need. You've got them trading down to number 9 and taking a player that's not even in the top 20. That makes no sense whatsoever. There's at least 6 edge rushers better than Myles Murphy. And I love Myles Murphy. I actually think he's going to be a great into the first round pick. But if they want Myles Murphy, they need to trade down again because they can get him down around at least 18, probably 22, 23.
interesting. And your off the rails prediction?
You don't want to hear my off the rails prediction.
I think I
My
do.
off the rails prediction for the Chicago Bears is that mothership spaceship they have built on top of Soldier Field is finally going to take off. And it's going to take the entire Chicago Bears franchise with them. Welcome to the first intergalactic team as they're going to fly off into some foreign space place and play football there because God knows the Chicago Bears can't play American football here in America anymore. I'm done with the
This
Bears.
isn't
I'm
this
done
isn't
with the Bears.
1985 anymore.
I'm done with the Bears. We're going on. I skipped a slide. Sorry. We're going to back up. The Minnesota Vikings. Is that what you show? That's what I
Yes,
show.
I think the Vikings.
All right. The Minnesota Vikings. I almost can't even get into this. The draft picks. They got a first, they got a third, a fourth, fifth, and sixth. So they're missing a second and a seventh, but
Yeah.
they won the division last year. We're talking about the division winners here, okay?
Yep.
Key losses are veteran players. Thielenson, Patrick Thompson, Kendricks, even Dalvin Tomlinson was getting long in the tooth. They lost veterans. And at some point, you got to cut bait with veterans. And frankly, the Vikings' younger players played better last year than expected in some positions. So I like the fact they trimmed the fat a little bit. For me, their additions kind of insignificant. I'm okay with Byron Murphy coming in at corner. I like him. I don't think he's as good as everybody else does, but he's a solid starter. I'll give him that. And he's still relatively young. I don't think he's that old. Marcus Davenport, I think, does increase their edge rush abilities. But pretty ho-hum for me on the Vikings additions. And I get the subtractions. They're just getting rid of age. What about you? What do you say?
I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Like they definitely got rid of a lot of their key veterans. I'm a little bit surprised, however, that they got rid of. Yeah, he is a veteran, but Eric Kendricks, and they kept that Harrison Smith. I'm a little surprised at that they wanted to keep him around. Because he is one of the oldest safeties in the league. So a little surprising there. Yeah, I mean, and then their additions, Marcus Davenport, he's a solid edge player. I have no problem with that. Byron Murphy, definitely a solidified starter. So I'm looking forward to see what he does for the Minnesota's secondary anyway. Other than that, yeah, it kind of is a lot of ho hum, and I'm really looking more. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do with that first round pick, where they go and see if they hit on it. But it should be a very interesting. pick there. As far as their position needs, they answered some, but they still have a lot of needs that they need to address. I'm not impressed with their linebacking core. I think that needs some work. Jordan Hicks was okay, but I don't think he is a. I don't think he played as well as they wanted him to. But I mean, I think they need to replace Eric Kendricks, and I don't think they did that all that well. So I mean, that's just my thoughts on it. Yeah. Oh yeah. And
Okay.
yeah.
Let me get a little bit broader stroke here with the Vikings, and maybe my issue with the Vikings right now. This is a division that's kind of in a changeover phase, especially with Rodgers leaving the division.
Yeah.
But the Bears are worst team in football. They're trying to rebuild. Detroit has put together back-to-back good off seasons, and they finally were definitely trending in the right direction this last year. And maybe the only team that I like the direction they're taking in this division. The Vikings were at the top last year. To me, this was a time period they needed to go out and solidify that they are the best in the division. And I don't see that they did that here. Although I love the TJ Hawkinson deal, and I think getting that last year probably needed to be added into this offseason maneuvers, even though they did it in the middle of last season. Because I think you're going to see what TJ can really do this coming year. Now that he's got a full offseason with the Vikings, he gets into the offense. They get into how they can use him. You got a veteran quarterback. Veteran quarterbacks tend to figure out how to make tight ends look better. But then we're also looking at this, and I think Kirk Cousins is on his last leg with this franchise. This may be the swan song goodbye season for him, especially if they don't do well. Now, the division stacks up to where I think they got a chance to do well, but I love the fact that the last position they put on the team needs list over here is quarterback, because this is a team, I think, second, third, fourth round, they're looking for maybe a quarterback to hit on as the future, the one that's going to take over when it's time to move on from Cousins in the next year or two. Because I think that's coming up faster than most people want to admit.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Kirk Cousins is what 33, 34 years old. He's getting old in the tooth. But I mean, we've seen quarterbacks play into their 40s. So what's the difference? Oh, I see that face.
There's only been a couple of exceptions there. I mean, you're stretching a little bit.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins, I think he's on a contract year, so I don't think they're going to re-sign him anyway. Yeah, I definitely think they're going to be drafting a quarterback, whether it is with that 87th or 119 pick. Definitely looking for a quarterback there, possibly. And if they hit on him, they hit on it. Yeah, but definitely going to be an interesting year for Kirk Cousins. I hope he flunks, but if he doesn't, damn it.
All right. Well, you ready for your bullseye pick?
I am ready for my bullseye pick.
I know we cut the Vikings kind of short. There was a lot more to talk about with the Bears, and simply there's just not a lot to talk about with the Vikings. So, the one thing I want to talk about, well, I'll do that in off the rails. Go ahead. Bullseye pick for number 23. What do you got?
So, this is an interesting one. With the Vikings' 24th pick, I have them taking another Clemson edge rusher, Brian Brees.
Brees is solid. Brees is solid. I'm not crazy about it. Might be a little high, but it's a solid pick. And at 23, if you get a solid player, that's probably a good way to go. I like the quarterbacks if one of them falls. I mean, if they could pull off a Joey Porter Jr. down this low, I think that would be the way to go instead. But I think that's probably a long shot. I'm just thinking over names in my head. The wide receivers, unless one of the top two fall to this point, I don't see it. So yeah, okay, defensive line, I'm good with that. Definitely addresses some need. Yeah, I can't fault it at all. So let's go off the rails. Let's just move right on into that. Minnesota Vikings off the rails. This is a team And I kind of alluded to it before. I don't see them building properly at this point. I think they lost some key veteran leadership. And unfortunately, if they lean on Kirk Cousins for that veteran leadership, I think they're going to find out they got the wrong guy and they're backing the wrong horse. And the wheels could come off this team really fast. Justin Jefferson will still be the building piece there. They're already talking about shopping Dalvin Cook around. He may be gone. I think that's a great running back. And I don't think you have the back to take over for him yet. So there's a mistake. If you trade him, you immediately got to replace him with something because you don't have it. So I see a lot of problems here. I see a lot of holes that could start to get really exploited on this team quickly. And it could be the downfall of Cousins that starts that. So my off the rails prediction in short for the Minnesota Vikings is in a division where they should have built themselves to take over the division, at least for this year and maybe next year as well. They didn't do that. Instead, they regressed. And now the door is wide open for one of these other teams that have already started their rebuilding and their youth movement to step in and take this division over from the Vikings. And the Vikings should have opened that door. That's simple.
Interesting.
All right. Moving on. Speaking of teams headed more in the right direction, this is one I would definitely say is moving the right way or trending the right way. We've seen that steady with Dan Campbell the last 2 years that the team has definitely started putting the little building blocks in place to build up to have a really good season. They kind of had a good season last year. I think they have the playoff season this year. The draft picks, lots of draft capital right at the top. They've got a chance to go out, they've got a chance to go out and get two studs back to back here with 6 and 18. I love that. But then they back it up with 2 second-round picks. So not only do they got the two first, they got 2 seconds. They're going to get 4 players in the top 55 that can contribute for them right away. That's
they can
scary.
Yeah, it is.
That's scary. And with the Vikings, like I said, leaving the door open, it means the Lions can kick the door down and take this thing over. I'll let you do additions and departures first. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I love the draft picks. They have a very big opportunity here to hit on if they can get lucky with 3 booms here. I mean, they can get lucky with that. The big additions here, Cameron Sutton, David Montgomery. I think those are some really big additions. Emmanuel Mosley, obviously a veteran presence in that secondary, along with Cameron Sutton from Pittsburgh. Graham Glasgow has a chance to be a leader on their offensive line. C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I mean, I don't think he's an overrated safety. I mean, I think he's a solid starter. I mean, he has a bit of an attitude on him, but I think he can be a difference maker in their secondary at least. And then for their departures, I mean, obviously losing Jamal Williams, who just made Detroit Lions history by beating Barry Sanders' all-time a single season touchdown record as a Lion, and then losing Deshaun Elliott is definitely a piece that I mean, it's definitely an interesting piece to lose. DJ Chark, I don't think he ever amounted to anything that they wanted him to. So I mean, I'm not. It's kind of a hit and miss for me. Evan Brown was more of a depth piece for me as a guard, and then so Mike Hughes a lot was what that was for me. So I mean, with their key additions, I definitely they answered some, but with of some of their team needs. But this draft that they have is going to, if they can get lucky and hit on a few guys, this is going to be a pretty damn good offseason for them, I'll say.
All right. I can't really argue with you, but I want to make a couple more points here. The secondary for me was the problem child. in Detroit last year. And I think they went out and they made some really key signatures with Sutton and Mosley. I think at quarterback at least they've stepped it up. I know they went ahead and traded away Okuda, which I kind of have a problem with. I thought that was their good young corner that they could build with, and I don't feel like they got much in return for him. But if they think he's a bust, why not move on from the bust? So from that point, it makes a little bit of sense. Now, C.J. Gardner Johnson, what I like about that signing is he solidifies the secondary. It's not so much what he brings to the game, but what he leads the rest of them to bring to the game. And you saw that in Philadelphia last year. C.J. Gardner Johnson, for me, is the reason that Philadelphia defense went from good, average, maybe above average, somewhere in that area, to Super Bowl contender. And it was the leadership of Gardner Johnson because the pieces didn't change a whole lot other than him. It was just him coming in and bringing that secondary unit together and making them work together. So I like that move by the Lions. They know they're going to have new pieces trying to find new ways to shut people down. Bring in that glue guy. Bring in that guy that just kind of brings it all together. I love the Gardner Johnson signing for that reason. They're not asking him to be a superstar. They're asking him to be a leader. And I think he'll do well
Yeah.
there. Reeves Maben, I actually like that linebacker signing. It's kind of under the radar. But he's one of those guys that just gets it. He's out there making plays that you don't see or don't show up in the stat book, but yet make defenses better. And so I like that addition as well. The Glasgow signing, it improves the offensive line. As you notice over here on the right hand side, there's no need for offensive linemen. How many teams in the NFL could actually put their team needs up and offensive line is not there whatsoever? I
Yeah,
would say
it's
Detroit might be
crazy.
the only one.
Yeah.
So you went out and got David Montgomery. I think he's a more athletic back than what Jamal Williams was. Jamal Williams, yeah, he broke Barry's record, but he did it with an extra game, first of all. Second of all, Barry Sanders had less than 5 red zone touchdowns when he set the record. Jamal Williams, 90% of his touchdowns came in the red zone. He
Yeah.
was a goal line junkie. And he's a good one. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to discredit what Jamal did, but he's a goal line junkie. And yeah, he's going to end up with more touchdowns than Barry Sanders, who had to break most of his from more than 20 yards out. Um, yeah, I think that's all I got there. Thought there was one more point, but I don't see what it was, and I forgot it. So, um, for me, what's missing also from that list over there that I kind of wish was still there was I'm not sold completely on this wide receiving core. Amon St. Brown, I like a lot. Um, but the rest of the core kind of average. And I thought I heard that they re-signed Marvin Jones Jr., but I don't see him on this list. Am
Yeah, I
I
don't see
wrong
him
about
either.
that?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything on it yet.
Let's see if I can Google that real quick because I could have swore I heard that, and I like that because he is a veteran leadership in the locker room. Um, yeah, he's back with the Detroit Lions from the 2 years in Jacksonville. Hopefully, hopefully he's brought back just to be a leader. They're not going to try to plug him in as the ace again, but more like kind of like what the Packers did when they brought Randall Cobb back. It wasn't so much for him to be the one or the two. It was for him to be that veteran presence in the locker room to solidify the group. I think Marvin Jones could do that really well for what is a young receiving core in Detroit. And I know a lot of people are going to say, "Well, Daryl, you ripped the Vikings for the Kirk Cousins thing. The Lions have Jared Goff and blah 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 blah." And over there on the team positions need right at the bottom, quarterback. They've got to think of a plan after Goff, and maybe they do. If that momentum stops that they've built up over the last 2 years, where they are steadily improving, if that stops for whatever reason, then yes, they've got to move on from Goff. But as long as you're progressing positive, I think Goff is fine. I don't think he's great, but I think he's a serviceable NFL quarterback. He's a Jimmy Garoppolo. He's just that manager that manages the game. Alex Smith comes to mind. Stuff like that. So I don't think you have to move on. But I do think in the back of your mind, you need to be making plan B for when it is time to move on. So maybe a late round quarterback, I get. Um, the team needs before we do the draft pick thing. The team needs I like, but I like it because for the Lions, for the first time I can ever remember, all of those positions, with maybe the exception of tight end, we're talking about depth pieces. We're not talking about you've got to go out and get a stud at any of those positions. Corner, they addressed the corner issue in free agency a little bit. Defensive line, that defensive line played way above its means. And I think it's in large part the addition of one Andrew Hutchinson that made them
Yeah.
play better, which is why I don't understand the edge rush thing, because I think they hit a home run with that one last year. Tight end, I get it. You got to replace Hawkinson. But Dan Campbell knows how to get what he needs out of the tight end position, and Hawkinson wasn't fitting that need. So the way Campbell's going to use his tight ends, and I think he's proven it, is he wants dominant blockers. He wants it to be a sixth offensive lineman out there. And if you can occasionally look to him as a dump off route, great. But he doesn't want to stretch the field with a tight end up the middle the way a lot of teams are trying to do these days. Safety, again, you're looking at secondary rebuild, and I think they've addressed that. I think they'll continue addressing that. Linebacker, you can always use more guys that can hunt the ball down. So I like the list of team needs. I'm not against any of it, but I love the fact that we're talking about depth pieces, not you got to go get a superstar. And they're sitting with a number 6 pick and a number 18 pick.
Yeah.
They could get superstars. That's the scary part. So, unless you got something to add on the positions, we'll go ahead and go into your pick. What do you say?
Yeah. I mean, the some people would say the lovable Lions, right? For my modern day warrior bullseye pick, I have a bit of an odd one, and this might be my most off one I've had today. But for the Lions 6th pick, I have going DeJuan Jones, offensive line.
What?
DeJuan Jones.
At number 6.
I did say before I announced the pick that it might have been my most off one.
Okay, so you take what, the 4th, 5th best offensive tackle, with all of the ones above him still being on the board, because there's no offensive tackle going in the top 5. Yeah, you're losing me there. Plus, offensive line is not a need position for this team. So I don't get it. Why would you take such a bad offensive lineman that high?
I mean, it's definitely an off move for them, but I mean, I'm nowhere near saying that's what they're gonna do.
That's what the bullseye pick is. That's you saying this is what they're going to do.
Yeah, I understand.
No, I don't think you do. I think they could get DeJuan Jones at 18 if that's somebody they really want, but I don't even think that's a position you're going to hear them utter in the first round. But okay. I mean, Jalen Carter to me makes a lot of sense. If he slides to number 6, that scares me because you got Hutchinson and Carter. That defensive line just went from really good to just downright dominant. And then the quarterbacks. This is a Christian Gonzalez, Devon Witherspoon. Somebody like that definitely is going to be available at number 6. I think you at least got to think it. Edge rusher, unless Will Anderson Jr. drops this far or Tyree Wilson is still there, which is possible. Maybe you go Wilson. But no, I don't get the offensive line pick at all. You could have taken a tight end here. You could have said Dalton Kincaid, and I would have had less issues with it. There's no way I think Dalton Kincaid's a top 10 pick. But okay, your wow, your bullseye pick almost sounds like an off the rails pick. So I guess it's time to go into off the rails, and I've kind of alluded to it this whole time, talking about the Lions. But for me, my Lions off the rails prediction is I see a 12-4 or 12-5, I guess it is now with the 17th game. a 12-5 type team right here that's going to make the playoffs. And that's a big statement for a Lions team that's really struggled for a long time now. I don't know that they make a lot of noise in the playoffs, but for me, the NFC is up for grabs this year. Other than the NFC East teams, I'm not sold on anybody in the NFC. I think there's question marks around everybody else. So you make the playoffs 12-4 or 12-5, maybe even 11-6. You get hot at the right time. The Lions could be sniffing a Super Bowl here. I think it's definitely in the wheelhouse of possibility with this team, especially if they hit on two of those top four picks.
Yeah, definitely a good a draft class for them if they can
I
hit.
mean, imagine this. If I'm drafting for the Lions and I get a chance at Jalen Carter, which there's a chance Carter goes
Yeah.
5 to Seattle, definitely. So you may not even have a chance at it. But if somehow I get Carter at number 6, then I turn around at 18 and go get a Joey Porter Jr. in my secondary, my defense just went from average to potentially great. And
Could be.
that would be huge for the Lions. Huge. And then for me, the second round, I'm looking at the running back, see if I can't make my running back position a little bit better. I like Swift and then the addition of Montgomery, but still I would look. And then that tight end position is going to have to be addressed. And I think you get maybe a Darnell Washington in the second round or somebody like that. The Lions start looking really good.
Yeah, definitely in the right direction from what I can tell, which it sucks.
And it helps that the division is definitely questionable this year. There's no dominant
It's definitely
team.
a shift.
So I guess that brings us to the final team of the division. And this should be short and sweet because let's face it, they've done absolutely nothing this offseason positive. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. For the most part, they've sat at home, sat on their hands, twiddled their thumbs, stuck their thumb up their butt trying to figure out what they're doing with Aaron Rodgers, and still don't have any answers. So, all right, I welcome them in. They've got draft picks. They got a lot of draft picks. Oh, wait, they're all 7th round picks. Other than that, it's one in each round.
Yeah.
Okay, boring. Key additions. When you have to put long snapper as one of your key additions, you suck. That's all there is to it. There's nothing positive about this. When long snapper has to be one of your key additions, and there's only 2, by the way, your team sucks. And now let's look at the key departures. Okay, we'll skip that first one at first. Alan Lazard, your top receiver last year. Robert Tunyon, your number 1 tight end last year. Dean Lowry, starting defensive tackle. Jaron Reed, 3rd defensive tackle in the rotation. And starting safety Adrian Amos. We lost 4 key starters and a good rotational defensive lineman. Now, let's throw a big-ass cherry on top here, and you're trading away maybe what I often call him is the boat instead of the goat, because from a skills standpoint, I don't know that there's been a better quarterback in the NFL. Now, has he produced all the time? No. Does he have the right mindset to lead a team? Hell no. But from a skills standpoint, it is hard to find somebody better than Aaron Rodgers. So your big cherry on top in your departure category is the fact that you're going to trade Rodgers away, and it sounds like you're not even going to get a first-round pick out of it. You're going to be lucky if you get a number 2 clean. So, Mr. Packer fan, you're chomping at the bit to talk about your beloved Green Bay Packers. I'll let you go through draft picks and additions, subtractions, and you tell us how we're supposed to see this.
Well, boy, here we go. So yeah, I mean, obviously in the draft pick area, we are very back heavy. We're not front heavy, obviously. This may be one of the worst off seasons the Packers have had in quite some time. The fact that our GM Brad Gutekunst hasn't added barely anything is a bit concerning. I mean, the fact that we've added Tavares more and a long snapper doesn't say a whole lot. Um, it just doesn't. And then obviously in the departure category here, we're losing a lot, losing well, potentially Aaron Rodgers if that trade ever goes through, and then a really good solid blocking tight end Alan Lazard, a solid blocking tight end in Robert Tunyon, a rotationary piece in Dean
Whoa,
Lowry.
whoa, 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 whoa! Stop.
What's that?
Okay, first of all, Alan Lazard is a wide receiver. You
Oh,
said tight
did
end.
I say tight end?
He's a
Oh,
good
I meant
blocking receiver. I get that. But then Robert Tunyon, a good blocking tight end? No, he's not. Tunyon was a
we
horrible
use him.
blocker.
They have used him as a blocker, but they mostly use him as a receiving tight end, obviously.
And if you were fixing to say Dean Lowry was a rotationary piece when he was probably the most stable piece you had on that defensive line this year, man, you really weren't watching, were you?
I mean, we did use him that as a starter in some games I remember the games I watched the Lions game he was used as a starter, but not in every game. I do remember that. Um, Adrian Amos, I mean he fell off this year. I mean, but so did his counterpart Darnell Savage. They both had off years this year. Um, Adrian Amos definitely getting the short end of the stick here, not getting re-signed by the Packers. So I mean, we're definitely gonna have to figure what the hell we're gonna do at safety in the draft at this point, because at this point I don't imagine we're gonna do anything else, like do much of anything noteworthy in free agency, because mostly everybody's gone now. So that's very, very concerning. So at this point, it's going to be heavily relying on the draft to accomplish our needs, which is never a smart thing to do, to rely on the draft, especially as a GM. Um, but yeah, that's very concerning. The fact that the lack of depth pieces that we haven't signed yet, and the fact that we've only got Tavares Moore and a long snapper, it's not good. It's not good, and we could potentially see the Packers take a really, really bad dive this year because they haven't answered a lot of their needs, and it does seem like they're trying to put too much into it in the draft, and that's just never a good combination, unfortunately. Oh,
Okay. Well,
what are your
first of all, I
opinions?
got to correct you. I got to correct you on this. Dean Lowry has been your starting defensive tackle for 6 seasons. He's not a rotational piece. He's been starting defensive lineman for 6 seasons. And he's coming off what could arguably be equal to his best seasons. He's never had a great season at sacks. 2021, he had 5. 3 is what he had this last year. But
No,
combined tackles have always been in the 40s area. He was there this year. So you're saying he's a conditional piece, I don't, a rotational piece. I don't know that I agree with that. Um, is he getting long in the tooth? Yeah, it's probably time to move on for him. And they kind of already has his replacement with the Florida State kid they drafted last year.
yeah, what's his
Man,
name?
name is eluding me. Wyatt?
Oh no, Devontae Wyatt's Georgia.
Georgia. My bad. Devontae Wyatt. They
Yeah,
kind of got his replacement. I think that's his replacement. So I'm okay with them letting him go, but don't categorize him as a rotational piece because you're trying to soften the blow on what your Packers have screwed up this offseason. Um, all of these losses might be justifiable. I'm not going to say they're not, but to say that they're not losses is stupid too. They're losses. And you do replace pieces in the draft. So I guess however you say his name, I guess you could say that is a way to go. I don't know that I agree that it's the way to go. Let's go ahead because we're running short on time. We ran long early, but tight end, wide receiver, edge rusher, safety, offensive tackle, defensive line, quarterback. I think all of those are spot on. There's definitely need at every position there for them. Some more so than other. If I was going to point out two or three, uh, tight end for me jumps off the board. I actually like their young wide receivers, although they need more wide receivers. I don't know that it's desperately a need. Edge rusher, if Gary comes back healthy, Preston Smith is still there. I mean, you got to start looking for the future, I guess, but I don't know that it's a huge need. Safety was bad last year. Safety play was bad all around for the Packers, and they let Amos go. So there's definitely a need there.
Yeah.
Offensive tackle has been a need ever since they gave Bakhtiari way too much money to sit on the IR because that's all he's done since he signed his contract. Defensive line, yes, they need to replace the pieces. And quarterback, who couldn't use more quarterbacks? Although I actually love their starting two quarterbacks with Jair Alexander and Stokes. I think they've got their two starters, so you're really just looking at depth at that point. Let me see what the sporting. So rated 32nd, the worst off
Yeah.
season, rated grade D. Yeah,
I
this
figured
is
that
not
might
a
come.
surprise. So we had the Chicago Bears, by the way. Chicago Bears in this division that Sporting News had rated as the best offseason. They have the Packers rated as the worst. And the notes say the Rodgers situation has been difficult for the Packers to navigate, and they have been sloppy with the transition from him to Jordan Love. His declaration that the Jets indeed are his destination is bound to hurt Green Bay's compensation on what's not been an inspiring free agency period otherwise. Yeah, I agree. And that's what bothers me the most about Aaron Rodgers saying I'm going to play in New York next year for the Jets. Uh, he cut the legs right out from under the Packers because when he did that, his trade value went to nothing. Um, and that's scary for them because I do think there might actually be another team or two out there that would get in on a bidding war to get Aaron Rodgers, which drives his value up, which means the Packers get more in return, which is what they need. But instead, they let Rodgers go publicly state, I'm going to be a New York Jet. That's the only place I'm going to play next year. That was bad for them, period. Um, so that's what the Sporting News had to say. The only thing we have left is our two predictions. Your bullseye prediction at number 15. If you're ready, sir, you can get after it.
Well, I have an interesting one again. I believe at the 15th pick, the Packers will pick Dalton Kincaid, tight end.
Well,
If you heard that.
I heard that, but I'm on mute. Um, I don't think that's that interesting at all. I've seen a lot of mock drafts that have tight end going here. It seems to vary between Michael Meyer, and
Michael Mann.
Dalton Kincaid. It seems to teeter totter between those two at 15. I don't think I'm crazy about a tight end that high, but I do understand they need a tight end. So if that's their only option at that pick, for me, I think I'm trading down as long as both tight ends are still available. And see if you can't pick up a few extra second, third, fourth round picks in there as compensation. It definitely wouldn't hurt you. You're going to need more picks at some point. I don't think there's going to be a stud unless Jackson Smith Enigma somehow slips to 15. I don't think there's going to be a stud at a position you have need to go after. The only position I say might be somebody you could get that pays off bigger at 15 when you get there would be edge rusher if a Logan Van Ness or Miles Murphy are still available at that point, which I think one of them could be. I wouldn't reach on a Nolan Smith here, but definitely the edge rusher could be the value position for where you're picking at number 15, in my opinion. But tight end definitely makes some sense. There's a lot of mock drafts going that way. Um, I like Mayer better than I like Kincaid, but I like both of them. So they could go either way, and I'd be okay with that. All right, off the rails prediction.
How bad is it gonna be?
I know you want something outlandish for your Green Bay Packers, and I thought long and hard trying to do something outlandish, but quite frankly, I couldn't come up with. We're going to get rid of the best quarterback we've ever had and not do anything about it for 4 months of free agency. We're just going to sit around twiddling our thumb, signing a long snapper, and trying to convince our fan base that that's how we win. Since I couldn't come up with something that outrageous because that's the truth and I can't beat it, my outrageous prediction is the fact that Aaron Rodgers is not going to be traded to the New York Jets. He is, in fact, going to be traded, to my opinion, the San Francisco 49ers on draft night, and it's going to shock the world. So there you go. You heard it here first. Off the rails, Aaron Rodgers traded draft night to the San Francisco 49ers, not the New York Jets.
My God.
You don't like that?
It's definitely interesting, but it's off the rails anyway.
I think there's a head of steam on this one out there. I think Trey Lance is also going to be traded on draft night, not to the Packers, to another team, and I think that's what's going to open the door for the Aaron Rodgers trade. So that's where we're at on that. We'll see what happens. I do think the Packers are in a position to move on from Aaron Rodgers, and I'm not saying it's a bad position. From what I keep hearing, and I do live in Green Bay, just like you, so I hear a lot of the Packers stuff. What I keep hearing coming out of Packers Nation over there is Jordan Love's ready. And maybe he was ready last year, but it was hard to make that move from Aaron Rodgers coming off back-to-back MVPs. So I think the Packers are going to be right in the mix to make the playoffs. I think they're going to struggle just because they didn't go out and address any of their needs. Why they didn't do that, I don't understand. And maybe it was just the fact we want to get the Rodgers thing done first, and that has drug on a lot longer than they expected. But I still like them to be competitive. And in this division, as long as you stay competitive, you could win the damn thing. Because none of these teams are head and shoulders above the others. Well, except for everybody's head and shoulders above the Bears. Because the Bears still suck.
Yes, they do.
All right. For the Modern Day Warrior, I am D-Train. This has been the NFC North. We've got 2 divisions left to go. Then we got mock drafts. We got to get it all done this week because next week is draft day. I love draft. So, for the Modern Day Warrior, I am D-Train. We are out of here. Peace.